for the Full-Time RV Family Life group, and we're going to tackle the topic of how do I break the news to my family. Now, luckily, I've got very supportive parents. This is my mom and dad, and but we've seen in the group that some of you are really concerned with breaking the news, or you've had a bad experience. And so what we wanted to do is, I'm going to ask some questions to them. We haven't rehearsed this at all. There is no list of questions. I have nothing written on my hands. And just to get a natural reaction, and maybe you can show this to your parents or to the family members that are concerned with the life decision you're about to make. Because to tell somebody that you're selling everything you own and moving into an RV and living on the road full time sounds a little crazy at first. You know, I know I felt that way when my wife said, you know, maybe we should do this. And then I researched it, and I don't know, a year later we're just loving it. So Mom and Dad, welcome to the program.
Hi guys.
What was the first thing that ran through your mind when we said we were going to sell everything and live in an RV?
I thought you were crazy. I thought it would last a month. And the worst part was I figured I would never see you and the girls again. So that to me was heartbreaking.
Yeah, that was probably the most difficult part, was how are we going to connect with you? How are we going to see you? Where do we fly in? What does this mean for visitation?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So that was tough. It was a hard part.
Did you think it was what about financially? Because a lot of people are probably going to be told that you're making a financial nightmare decision because you're selling an asset that actually makes money and buying something that depreciates daily.
Yeah, that end of it didn't really bother me too much because, you know, the numbers kind of make sense when you look at it. Yeah, that really never was a factor.
That didn't come into my mind either, because, you know, I believe in you and I know you're smart, so.
Well, I sure thought about it a lot.
I bet you did.
You know, when you have a house and every year you're able to, you know, you have the insurance that you can deduct, and you have this nest egg that you're building up, and then you take that and you buy something that is worth less the next day, you know. So that's something that you kind of weigh, you know, weigh the good and the bad out. But now, when you started seeing us posting videos and posting pictures, did that make things a little easier for you?
It did, because you know that was always my dream, was to travel by RV. And so I was a little jealous.
Yeah?
Yeah, because you guys are living such a great life, and yes, very jealous.
Is there a problem? Do we need to stop the video?
Yeah, no problem.
I didn't, you know, the whole concept is hard to wrap your head around, period. And somebody that is going to take traditionally the American dream and change it up and take a vacation and turn it into a lifestyle, that was hard mentally to, how can this be? You know, we're so traditional in our habits and the way we're brought up and the way we're taught and what you do. And this is the steps you take. You know, you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you build a career. Somewhere in there you get married, you have kids, 2.3 kids, you buy a house, and, you know, the whole thing. So, yeah, it was hard to wrap my head around, can this be real? Can you get outside the box and do something like that? And does it make sense? And can you survive? That was a big question. I've known people in the business that I'm in that have done that. Not what you've done, but have taken semi-retired. Now, that's a big thing right there, right? Not building a career, but okay, done my thing, cashed in, got my chips off the table, bought an RV, and they went and lived on the road for a year and a half and just traveled with little children. So, but this was different. This was, I gotta work, I gotta raise kids, I got school, and I'm still gonna live in an RV and travel across the country back and forth.
So I know how I feel about this lifestyle. You know, to somebody on the outside looking in, you know, what do you see as some of the pros and cons?
Well, that's a tough one because even at 67 years old, you know, you look back at your life and are there regrets? Sure. You try to plan the very best that you can so that there are no regrets, but unfortunately, we learn from life, and hindsight is always 20/20. So the condition of our mental capacity, habits, whatever, have been developed by everything that we've gone through in life. We're a compilation of experiences that have formed us into who we are, be it good or bad, for whatever reason, choices. But when you ask people to look back at life and ask them, who is the most significant person that has influenced you? And that's an interesting question, because can it happen within the container of a four-wheel vehicle? You know, how secluded, if you will, this family will be for the next 2 months, 2 years, 20 years. Where and who will influence their lives? What experiences will they have that will help shape them and form them into healthy, emotional children? And that's really the unknown. That's where the uncertainty is. I know from my own experience that what I went through in my childhood helped shape me to be who I am. And I can think back clearly on the voices that really helped throw me a lifeline in difficult situations. I'll never forget watching a video that you showed that just blew my mind. It's something that I had never ever thought about. And Mel was talking, there was another woman in the video, and you were talking about kids and homeschooling, and I think that was one of the biggest fears that you were dealing with for the day. How do you educate your children? How is homeschooling? How do I do it? Where does the curriculum? That kind of thing. And Mel was talking about the influences in the box school, and that how strong and independent the children were becoming. They weren't in a box every day, 6 hours a day, having to deal with the social aspects of what's right, being teased, bullied, fitting in, having to follow the crowds, but they were independent little human beings that were living life out on the road. And at that very moment, I flashed back to all the different places that you had been and watching the kids play and just taking it all in. And I thought, golly, I missed that entirely. That these kids weren't being shaped by the social status of a second grade or a third grade. How about high school? Mm-hmm. How tough was that for everybody? But they knew who they were and what they liked and what they didn't like. And if they didn't feel comfortable with whatever was going on, then they would just move away. They didn't feel any need to have to fit in. And I thought, God, if nothing else positive came out of that, how important would that be in itself for shaping my children for the future? Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because at my business, we deal with 5 dysfunctions of the team, overcoming trust issues and commitment issues, all because you can go back in time of what happened to us through life. And to be able to build children with such a knowledge of who they are and to be in touch with who they are, I don't know of anything that could be more powerful than something like this.
Well, you bring up a good point, because a lot of people think when you take your family out on the road, we're isolated. But what's crazy is our kids have more friends now than they ever had in a bricks and sticks home or at school, because when you're in school, you don't choose your friends. You're placed in a classroom, and you have to make do with those people for that year, and then the next year you're placed in another group of people. When we go to like escapers convergences, or if we're going to an art village convergence or full-time families, they're able to pick and choose who they want to play with. And they find their little tribe, and they hang out and they play the entire week, and then they become pen pals. Or like us in the Polands, us and their child, our kids play, they talk on the phone, and they create better relationships. So it's not about quantity, it's about quality of relationship. So that's something that is really powerful in the RV community. The other thing I was talking to Mom about earlier today was how when we were living, we had a big house, and it was on a big chunk of land, and we were, look at us, we've made it, and just hating life. Look at all this awesome crap we have to take care of. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, for me, it was more of a proving ground. Look at what I've been able to accomplish. And when you're out on the road and you're boondocking, or you're at a convergence, and there's you, and then there's $1 million Prevost, and then there's maybe there's a $12,000 camper. The RV lifestyle is a great equalizer. We're all cut from the same thread, and we all wind up around the same fire at night. And if anything happened to anybody else, we all jump in and help. There's no dividing line, there's no property, there's no community this, community that. The only community there is our community, and we take care of each other. And as you can see in our group, that's what we're all about. So what would you say to somebody that is about to what would you say to the parents or the family members of somebody about to be approached with the shocking news that, hey, everything is about to change, but now that you've seen it for a year?
I'd say examine your own life, and if you can do things over, how many things would you change? I think that's a pretty safe bet that every one of us would be raising our hands. We'd change something. I think life is nothing but choices, and a lot of things that we do, the safe move is to follow tradition. This is certainly something that's out of the box, and there's pros and cons to everything. But to be courageous and to believe and to love and not condemn, criticize, or complain about choices that your family is making, but to support them and love them right where they're at. There's no perfect solution to life. Life is just a bunch of choices that we make. And to have family that supports you and listens to you and loves you through the process, I think is the most valuable thing that you can do.
I would say trust your children that they've done the research, and if it's a dream of theirs and it's in their heart, we don't want to be the ones to crush that dream. And it may just be the best thing for them or their family if they have kids. I envy the lifestyle because we are here in our gorgeous home on the river, but it's a maintenance nightmare. And Would you rather spend your time with your children or mowing the yard?
I'm very fortunate to have very supportive parents, and so thank you very much for coming on here. And hopefully, if you have any comments, please listen below, and we'll try to answer.